Hello, everybody, and welcome to Pull Focus, the cinema-based entertainment podcast where a couple of freelancers come together to talk shop. My name is Mike, and as always, I'm joined by my brother in crime, in his own way, a caped crusader, in his own way, a true detective of Salt Lake, not necessarily able to jump over a building in a single bound, but he can definitely grapple with one. I'm not saying he's Batman, but I've never seen him and Batman in the same place. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Robert Andrus.
All right, let's sleep for this episode because there's nothing original about it.
Nothing original
including my Batman voice. So I'm gonna take you back in time.
Oh man!
To a time and a place where it was dark all the time.
All the time.
Because I avoid the sunshine. Because in fact, I am not a Batman. I'm a vampire that sparkles in the sunlight.
Oh, I can't believe you're getting right to the heart of the matter.
And that is why I do not choose to live in the sunlight. Mike, how are you?
I'm good.
I wish I had a better intro for you on that one.
You don't have to worry about that, man. I
completely ignored our audience. I apologize, audience, but this is awful.
Oh, man.
I'm just going to say that out loud right now. Are you ready?
We're going to talk about the Batman.
Police! Hands up! Stay still! Get out of here!
Fear is a tool. But when that light hits the sky, it's not just a call. It's a warning. I've been trying to reach you. Burn the God! This is about a king, and Ritter's the match.
I can take care of myself.
If this continues, it won't be long before you've nothing left.
I don't care what happens to me.
It's only gonna get worse for you.
Whoa! Take it easy, sweetheart. Hear everything they say, ain't you?
Maybe we're not so different. Who are you under there?
I'm vengeance. What's black and blue and dead all over? You. Take it.
I got you! I got you!
Okay, so as you guys could have probably noticed by the lovely intro that we provided you with today's episode, we are going to be talking about the Batman, the 2022 film. This was another attempt at being trying to bring forth some realism, some profit, and I don't know, probably trying to come about and hitch a wagon to the star, which was the Nolan films of years before. And we have some stuff popping up in regards to some really interesting points in cinematography, enemy and villain choice, actor choice, and that kind of thing. And ultimately, it being one of the first blockbusters of 2022 in the the COVID era. We'll touch on that a little bit too. But let's just jump right into the synopsis in regards to it from IMDb. When a sadistic serial killer begins murdering key political figures in Gotham, Batman is forced to investigate the city's hidden corruption and question his family's involvement. This was a film directed by Matt Reeves and written by Matt Reeves and Peter Craig. And we had some new talent to take the cowl with the addition of Robert Pattinson playing Bruce Wayne and Batman, Zoe Kravitz playing Selena Kyle, Catwoman, and the great, as always, Mr. Jeffrey Wright, who was providing the part for Lieutenant James Gordon. We had some great prosthetic work with Colin Farrell playing the Penguin. I mean, the cast is amazing. And the story takes directly from some of the old detective comics that are popping up. You guys are going to be hearing this a lot. You probably already heard it from other reviews. If you happen to be, a cinephobe, or not cinephobe, but if you happen to be like a fan of cinema, that kind of thing. A lot of people are talking about how the Batman was able to keep some of the grittiness that was established, the legitimate grittiness that was established from the Nolan films, but was able to dive in deeper when it came to the Batman being the detective of DC Comics and the DCU. Let's dive right into it. Andrus, when we think about...
Oh! Don't make me! Don't make me!
When we think about, first of all, whenever we talk about this when it comes to like the MCU, we talk about this when it comes to like any kind of fantasy or comic book kind of like being brought to life. It's a situation where it has to be something where we're not only losing the fans, but also bringing in people by making it more real, more legitimate. The Nolan films did that. They were the first ones to really like just say, hey, this is actually a really good character, and he was still able to stay loyal enough so that, the comic nerds, myself included, were excited about the IP. What do you think were some things that they did in order to commit to that model, where they were able to make it profitable through its, realism, but also they were able to stay loyal to the fan base?
Is that a real question for me? Because I don't know that I have a real answer for you. All I have is sarcasm. Stain.
You did not like this movie. Okay. No.
Garbage. So okay.
Which is completely fine, by the way. I love it.
I will say marketing.
Yeah. Like top notch, right? Yeah.
Fabulous, amazing, wonderful job marketing it, because it still piqued an interest. I still wanted to see it in the theater, even though I did not.
Yeah.
I think my time frame got in my way on that, as far as being able to see it in the theater versus the comfort of my home.
Yeah.
There were some hits and misses as far as all of it for me. Now, I really didn't watch much of the pre advertisements on it, so I really didn't know what to
stingers and everything, the press kits that they published.
I saw a trailer and I'm like, okay, it's another Batman movie. It's great.
Yeah,
why?
the trailer.
And why do we have a vampire as a bat? I don't get it. It makes sense, but okay. But I also felt the same way about the Joker and Heath Ledger. I've been very honest about how I felt about that, and ultimately he shoved a big foot in my mouth because he was so stellar.
See, that was the thing, right?
Performance in that, right?
That's part of the thing too, because like you're echoing a lot of my own concerns as well. Like, what else can they do with this character that hasn't already been done? But should we keep an open mind, because we were surprised with the previous run on the IP?
So here's where I get into a really big issue with this particular franchise.
Yeah.
I'm comparing a lot to it. That's its number one hit, right? There's so much about this cast of characters that I love and appreciate from the original Batman franchise. With Tim Burton at the helm.
Yeah, no, for sure. The original animated series kind of reverberates in this one a little bit.
And then there's that too. I mean, there's so many different things that are, we've consumed with the Batman franchise already, and every iteration of it has its pros and cons. It's okay. I can get alongside of that.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I was really excited about was the fact that it went directly into a noir film.
Yeah,
and I loved the idea of that for the first 2 minutes. I know. Hang on, I've got a point. I do have a point.
You always
it's
have
not
a point.
Just sarcasm.
I know.
Okay?
I know.
I really did like that until it was such a shift getting into the movie, because now we're set up in the stalker cam situation for the first 10. And I'm like, what is going on? I want to
Right.
be a part of the story. I don't want to be this bystander. And I'm
Right.
really confused. In the first act.
Yeah.
The first moments of the first act, I was confused.
I think what kind of I can kind of vibe with that a little bit is that the introduction to we have to establish in a superhero movie who not only how can I put this? Everybody knows who the hero is.
Well, and that's the thing is like they took the assumption that everybody knows.
Gotcha.
Right?
Gotcha.
And then they threw it at us in this tone that shifted.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of that, as soon as we were acclimating to it.
So you feel,
and I was just like, well, what the hell is this?
Yeah. I understand completely where you're coming from, and I think it happened specifically very quickly because we were introduced to Paul Dano's The Riddler, and we find that I found this kind of refreshing, but I can understand how because it was a bit disjointed. We did open up with like it being a noir. We open up with somebody spying.
Voiceover
was great. There was
it.
the slow pans that we see. We even had like the low undertones of music that we see from classic noir that comes about. She walked into my office, that kind of thing. And we do have like this the opening scene where we have the mayor of Gotham being spied upon, and when we go about and then get to the internal shot where we see him murdered by the Riddler.
When we're inside the building, right?
It turns into like a Saw sequel. Pretty
much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can understand that. I actually kind of liked it.
WTF, thank you very much.
I mean, the guy takes like he takes like a little trowel and he just beats the dude to death with it. And it's like, okay, well, I understand that you guys want to make this like a bit more of a noir kind of thing. And that was part of the press that was coming out prior to seeing the film, right? They're like, back to his roots. Robert Pattinson brings back the true detective of Batman.
Okay.
And we're dealing with a younger Batman, too. We're dealing with a Batman who's still just beginning to get going on 2 years in his career as a vigilante. And then, to your point, they're going to lean on the violence when they're trying to make this a story about how intelligent Batman is.
Which literally made no sense to me. So I'm really glad that you brought that point up because that was going to be one of my points later on.
Well, I think that it's something that's worth saying. I think it's because they wanted to... They're kind of grabbing at straws because, again, you can't... If you want to make money on this thing, you have to get outside of the shadow of Nolan's films. And how are you going to do that? What's the easiest way?
And Tim Burton's films. And Zack Snyder's films.
Yes.
And.
So how do we make it different? The easiest way? Grotesque violence.
Yeah, but here's the thing about this, too, is like... My brother and I had a conversation about this, and he said that, the best part of this movie is happening in this battle, and it's the first battle inside the club.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And okay, granted, yes.
Oh wait, club? What do you mean?
Yes,
There's fighting in this movie?
Spoiler alerts! Spoiler alerts!
In case you guys...
I'll just do it for you. Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Okay. So
you are so spicy today, and I love it.
I am spicy today because this movie was such a big disappointment for me.
That being said, if you haven't seen the movie, don't listen to us. Watch the movie first. Anyway, go ahead.
Definitely form your own opinion.
Right.
We're just here to talk about movies and enjoy ourselves.
Damn straight.
And today, I'm just going to give myself an ulcer. So,
yeah. Jesus. Okay, sorry.
I know.
Excuse me.
So much fun. No, I love it.
I love it.
Keep going.
You are
Keep
so calm. You are
it.
so calm all the time. Like before we had the incredible fuego from Mr. Umberto Estrada.
Yeah.
But I mean, now me being able to rely on you to have a fireworks display when we're talking about a movie makes me so happy. Please,
I'm glad.
Continue. So it's definitely like this quick juxtaposition where we have like this traditional kind of intro to like, oh, okay, this is going to be procedural. This is going to be about the case. This is going to be about that. And then immediately after, we see a man who gets brained to death with a trowel, and then maybe 5 to 10 minutes in, when they're talking about the legend of the Batman, we see Robert Pattinson literally beat the teeth out of one of these Joker wannabes in the subway. So was that something that you found like was the major point of just disjointment? Like they say and they try through the writing, or they're
from the beginning it was disjointed.
Gotcha.
For me.
Yeah.
So there's just like I'm not going to go beat by beat because one, I chose to forget a lot of the beat by beats.
It's going to be a shorter episode. I don't want you to have.
It is going to be a shorter.
I don't want you to have a
episode.
coronary.
I'm just going to keep shutting it down, saying, you know what? I forgot about that. You know what? I don't care about that. You know what? This and that and whatever. I've got my talking points that I definitely want to holler out.
I am here for it. I am here for it.
Like for me, it was the idea behind everything was a really good idea. I would really like to watch a True Detective Batman movie.
Absolutely.
I would really, really like that. For me, I got an homage to every other movie out there, and I didn't like that.
Every other cop movie, every other seven. Or whatever,
no, it
right?
was literally. It did not feel. I'm sorry, Matt Reeves. I'm sorry, whoever's making the decisions in the editing room. I'm sorry. I did not like any of this.
Interesting.
Because for me, it did not feel original at all.
That's interesting to me. Okay, cool.
All, and it pissed me off in a lot of cases too.
Were there any
I even got Dick Tracy in this. Are you
No,
are you kidding me?
For sure.
I love the idea of Dick Tracy in a Dick Tracy world.
Yes.
I do not like the idea of Batman in a Dick Tracy world because it didn't make any damn sense.
So go deeper into that, because there definitely were some commitments to him being able to use his brain and depend upon the police a lot more. I mean, like he and Jeffrey Wright and Robert Pattinson, I think, have a good chemistry in regards to this, where we have for the first time Gordon is taking a lot of risk with the rest of the department to trust his vigilante. And I think there are these really good scenes where like we get a really good idea of like what the Gotham police really think about Batman. But because
yes and no, but it's still contrived. It's still
contrived.
The exact same thing as all of the other ones.
Okay.
For me, there was no difference in who Gordon was because Gordon is that character.
Sure.
He's the trusting ally / accomplice to Batman. It's so dumb to me that
you didn't think that he was empowered at all. I thought Jeffrey Wright.
They have to force feed us.
Okay.
We don't need to be force fed that. We get it. He is a vigilante, and I mean, okay. If we're starting a story from the beginning, this is a beginning story. This is an origin story for this franchise.
Yes.
We're gonna have to have some of those things.
Right.
It doesn't have to be overt.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
It doesn't have to be obvious. It still sure needs to be a part of this story. Yes, this is the same world where the cops do not appreciate vigilantes.
Right.
Blah, 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 blah,
But after
because they're all corrupt.
Right.
Because of this. Blah 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 blah. We get it. We're intelligent. We're an intelligent audience, especially in the world where we've seen an iteration of Batman so many times now.
Yeah.
I think Reeves was chasing the coattails of Burton, of Nolan, and of Snyder, to be honest.
Snyder, yeah, sure. Well, how could he not? I mean, like this in order to be like the flagship to have like the next generation for what has already proven to be, as long as it's provided to us in this package, what is proven to be a very profitable IP. I mean, you have to follow the path that's already been provided. The studios are not going to let you do anything different. We can't have this be like another Joker situation, which even though I think the Todd Phillips film was ridiculously good, and I think that all the Oscar nods that it got were completely warranted, you can't do that with this franchise. It makes too much money.
My question is, why not?
Because it's too risky. It's too risky.
My question for them who decide is why the hell not?
Okay.
Can you imagine if this really truly was a true crime story told by a vigilante?
Yes.
I'm going to eat that crap up right now.
Yeah, I understand.
Why can't they trust us to get on board with that?
I don't think that we're the norm, though. You and I have had experience on sets.
I disagree.
Okay.
I disagree. Look at all the content that is out there right now. Look at how many crossovers people are experiencing now because of all the streaming services.
That's very true. Actually,
it is not the same world that it used to be.
It is not.
For me, I'm glad that I have a really strong opinion on this one because it's solidifying that in my consumption.
I understand. It gives you an idea of like how they kind of pulled the rug out from under you, and now you know what to look for when it comes to like you're busy. You want to make sure that you don't waste your time, And if this movie felt like a waste of time, I can understand how like learning from it is important.
So tell me what about this movie you liked and appreciated? Because I'm just going to be a hateful hater for a while.
I love it. I want you to keep bringing the heat. What I did appreciate about it, like we can deal with it like in different points of dialogue in regards to the review overall. Sure. The cinematography we'll talk about. The palette choices we'll talk about. I think the costume choices we can talk about. But mostly the biggest thing that was really enjoyable for me was I'm not the biggest Batman fan. Again, Bert would be able to be a better aficionado on that.
Bert definitely is, yes.
But from what I do know about Batman is that I was a fan of these comics. I mean, the Detective Comics line is like where it first started. I mean, that's been a part of the DC label for literally decades. And I did appreciate it being less of a gear-hungry EDC emo-con who knows martial arts and having all that, but also somebody who is able to use that tech to really kind of involve the other characters in it, like a detective would. I love the scenes where we had him and Selina talking about, the contact lenses that he used. I loved that we could really see if you looked. I mean, first of all, the Batmobile was ridiculously cool, but it was definitely more low tech.
Do you know what?
What?
I figured it was so basic.
That's what I liked about it.
It's so funny. It was so...
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's what I liked about it, because it lends more into the fact that this is a young Batman that I really did enjoy seeing, because I've seen it before in like, animated stuff and other comic books and that kind of thing. There was honestly years ago, there was like this really beautiful manga for Batman when it was first, there's been more since then, but it was like, Batman Year One, and some of it took place in Japan and that kind of stuff. And I enjoyed seeing how the set design, the costume design, and the prop masters were able to reflect the fact this isn't a guy who has been able to, master his fortune enough to get like, the electric fabric that'll turn into wings that we saw in the Nolan films. But at the very least, he can afford to get like a squirrel suit and jump off of the top of a building. And
fly into the middle of a brick.
We'll get into that.
Not get injured whatsoever.
Did not like that.
Excuse me. I'm going spoiler alert.
Yep.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
So part of it, like that scene aside, that scene was rough. But the rest of it, where you see like his armor and his suit, it isn't this space age spider silk bulletproof fabric or whatever. The dude has like, hockey pads on almost. I mean, it's more capable than that, obviously. It's still kind of like futuristic and that kind of thing. But I liked seeing that we saw an unpolished Batman who was clunky and who was doing like the fighting styles was more of like a Muay Thai, more like a Kali kind of situation where he's using a lot of his fists and just like these big blows and everything. It wasn't like, this huge ninjutsu training montages going on. We have he's riding a motorbike that has no tags and that needs to be fixed here and there. I think that I was kind of drawn in because I believed that we were seeing, the Batman use his brain more and not use the gear more, which is something that I enjoyed.
Yeah, and for me, I would argue that because I disagree. I did not see him using his brain. I mean,
not at all.
No.
He was getting informants. He was sneaking into the club. He was like using like reconnaissance.
Do you know what I equate that to?
What?
I equate it to a child.
Well, maybe that was the point? Like, this is a young dude who's still trying to
maybe
cut his
it was,
teeth.
but I want to call him Emoti Batty.
Emoti Batty?
Like, it's not even the Batman.
This is about the eyeliner, isn't it? They were brave enough to show him with eyeliner and without the mask.
So to validate your point and your perspective, I see what you're saying.
I'm seeing what you're saying too. I don't want to come off as
man. I do disagree because I did not enjoy it that way. I was confused by it. And yes, he is new as Batman.
Yeah.
How old is he in the franchise?
That's a good question. Yeah.
Easily in his 30s.
Yeah.
He's not college Batman, right?
No.
He's Batman.
Right.
He is the Batman. So for me, that intelligence needs to also carry over into his punishment and to his vigilantism. And I don't think that they were smart about that.
So you think he was like?
I don't think it was as intelligent as it could have been.
He was figuring out ciphers. I mean, like the Riddler was a good thing to balance that off of, maybe, but maybe it was lazy writing. I can understand.
As electronics did that for him.
Okay. I can respect.
You know what I mean? He was so reliant on all of. I mean, he is a gadget vigilante.
Yeah,
don't get me wrong. I understand.
And you do make a good point, because like it was Alfred that figured out the first cipher that was able to.
Right. I mean. Yes, he's a Padawan. Okay, we get it. And Alfred's his Gollum-y guru.
How dare you make this about Star Wars again?
I totally.
How dare
did you hear what I just said too?
I did.
Okay, so there's that.
I think that but we should stick on that whole idea of it being disjointed, though, because I can kind of understand and offer some empathy in that regard when it comes to.
So confusing.
There are definitely scenes in here where you're wondering, well, wait, is he a thug or is he using his brain? Well, he's Batman. He's both. Is he, though? Is that the main question that was unanswered for you throughout the film?
Oh, boy. How do I answer that one?
You don't have to. It's okay. I just find it interesting.
No. It's just a matter of I think that his character was just as confused as I was watching the movie.
That's really interesting. Okay.
I'll go that direction.
Well, doesn't that like kind of speak to like Pattinson's portrayal then? I mean, anybody can go ahead and put on a gruff voice, but did you see any like fragility in this guy? Like, did you see any PTSD that he was dealing with, some depression or anything like that? They were playing Nirvana during the funeral scene, Andrus.
Oh my gosh, I know. Even the music was so on the point.
It was pretty emo,
on the nose. There's a lot about this movie that I can understand why it's there if I'm really thinking it through, but I'm just confused all the way through it.
Because is it because like they didn't commit to one or the other for you, or was it like a situation where?
So what it definitely feels like for me is nobody was allowed to explore what this truly was as far as this franchise.
Oh, okay.
We've got to do the North thing, we've got to do the Saw thing, we've got to do the Dick Tracy thing, we've got to do the Nolan thing, we've got to do the Burton thing.
Maybe they're trying to do too much.
We've got to incorporate and bring in every single culture, every identity, everything. So it's just too much.
And
it's not clear.
Maybe by trying to bring in every identity, for lack of a better term, that's been provided by other iterations of his character in the IP. Maybe
what's relevant right now in the tabloids too.
Right. Like, maybe Reeves and Peter Craig forgot to just find this film's identity and just commit to it instead of trying to be a chameleon, like a jack of all trades.
I would have loved, instead of introducing all of the main players as far as whoever we're seeing in this franchise, which is we have the Penguin, we have
Catwoman,
we have the Joker, we have the Riddler, we have Catwoman, we have who else?
That's about it. We have Falcone or Falcone.
Did they do? Yeah, we have Falcone. Do we have Scarecrow?
No.
No. There wasn't a reference to that, because I want to say there was.
I don't think so. So I think what we were doing is like they were getting like some heavy hitters, but you can't do the Joker again, right? But they wanted to go about and they wanted to bring in the Riddler because there's some interesting points of play here. It's like, well, we want to have an antagonist that would be able to knock Batman's noodle around a little bit. Let's get the Riddler. Let's get Paul Dano, who has very capable of being so talented. I like the way in which he portrayed the Riddler, because it was like this. I think it was really very real. I mean, this is what happens when you have a homicidal maniac. He wasn't like...
You did?
I did.
I found him to be so damn over the top.
I didn't think so. I think it was like this portrayal of realism that I really enjoyed. I think that if you're going to have somebody who happens to be... He was definitely, the masochistic... villain from Seven and Saw that we've seen before he was the Riddler.
You brought up more of my references.
Yeah,
Thank
I know.
much.
Before he was the Riddler. It wasn't the Riddler first, but I think it makes sense to have him in there because of the goals that we know that they were trying to get to with this film. And I think that's also part of the disjointed nature that you're talking about as well. Maybe they should have, leaned a little less heavy on the press kits when they're saying like, back to the basics of Batman, or something like that.
Here's another, like, okay. I like the idea of the Riddler as you just described it.
Well, if the Riddler was happening in real life, it would be this character.
Sure. And that makes sense to me, the portrayal of it. One of the stupidest things in here, like I already brought up the squirrel suit into the bridge.
Yeah. Oh,
the other one is cappuccino with a question mark in it. Like, did he ask for that? did he make it? And that's his signature copy?
Whoa, wait a minute.
It was so stupid to me why that even had to be in there. And I thought it was so dumb.
You cannot avoid camp in a superhero movie, man.
Sorry, that took it too far for me. Do you not agree with that comment?
I can agree with that, sure. I mean, I don't.
Thank you.
I don't necessarily.
Thank you for validating me. I was like, this is so stupid. Are you kidding me? So stupid.
We have to understand that there has to be a suspension of disbelief here. Like, we bring that up a lot when it comes to movies in general. But with a superhero movie, you have to stretch it a little bit more.
Okay. And then talk about its realism.
Okay. Oh,
so stop it. You know what I mean? You're confused, sir. I'm going to bring you into my reality here.
I am beginning to realize.
Get out of that confusion.
I am beginning to realize where you're coming from a little bit. I mean, it's like, what is this movie? What are you trying to do? Why don't you guys pick a lane and stick with it instead of trying to drive a little bit down every lane?
So I think the Penguin fit in that cappuccino land that I just described, right?
I don't remember the Penguin ever being Italian or being from
or a Robert De Niro ripoff. Can I please tell you all of my things about this so that you can just get on board with me?
Please bring it.
I think today I'm just trying to convince you to come over. I really am. I'm really trying to convince you.
Okay. I'm open. I'm open.
Something, dude.
I'm open.
Oh, something. All right. I'm gonna let you speak. Please tell me more about what you liked so that I can.
Well, I'm thinking about now, instead of going on to like the story structure and like the holes that you find in it, because I am beginning to kind of, walk a little bit more on your side. I can respect how the main goal of this movie was to make it more realistic, in the realm of a noir mystery. And if they are going to commit to that, then why aren't they committing to it? Why are they borrowing these tropes from Saw?
Thank you very much.
And why are they using these, not necessarily stereotypical? I guess you could say it's like a mafia stereotype.
It's regurgitated. It's regurgitated from other projects.
Sure. Let's move on in regards to then like some of the interesting things that they did, like technically. Then maybe I thought it was a beautiful film. I thought the way in which they were able to make use of a lot of the dark red colors and everything. I mean, it did remind me of Seven a lot, but I think that it was this way of making things of making things more claustrophobic. And that's something that you need when you want to prolong tension when you come to a movie that was ended up being an action thriller, but was initially introduced to us as being like a noir mystery kind of LA Confidential kind of thing. What were your thoughts in regards to some of the choices in that regard? I mean, the way in which light was coloring the screen, I thought was pretty interesting, because this was never anything that was committed to before so heavily when it came to previous designs. Even in the Nolan films, we had bright moments that were popping up. Obviously, there's a lot of black in any Batman movie that you're going through, but we had a committed color palette here that I think lends itself as being a character in the movie all in itself.
So the answer to me is yes, but it was also too dark for me in the sense of.
Are we talking Game of Thrones dark?
Well, I was about to, yes. Okay. I was about to, yes. But it wasn't that degree. And gotcha. The Game of Thrones reference is in the final season. There's the one episode where it's just pitch black the entire time and you don't see much.
Right.
And that's too much to tell that kind of a story that's such a visual story. I think the color palette was too dark.
Okay.
I did like the use of the reds. I don't agree necessarily for me as far as the claustrophobic nature of it. But the dark tones definitely brought in the grittiness and the downtrodden and the mopiness and the emo baddie side of it. So yes, I'm going to agree with you on that.
Gotcha.
But for me, it didn't ever let up. So it just shut me down. And I'll tell you, I had to watch this movie in several different time frames because I kept falling asleep.
Oh my God. Okay.
And then I would go back then I would fall asleep again.
Geez,
and
dude.
then I would go back and it was really bad for me.
I think between like the second and the third act, there were some pacing issues that contributed to the 3 hour length of the movie in a negative way. But falling asleep, I don't think you and I have ever disagreed more about a movie in the history of this freaking podcast, my man.
No, I would agree with you on that one. I would. But I do feel very, very strongly about that. It's just, it could certainly be my tone and my vibe. I love it. I can't argue that it's my hatred for Robert Pattinson because it's not. I actually think he's very talented.
I think he did a very good job.
There's several projects that he's done that I've really, really appreciated.
Oh yeah.
Certainly throughout the years, but for me, for this one, I don't dislike any of the actors in it. I don't. In fact, I like a lot of them quite a lot.
Right. I think that John Turturro as Falcone or whatever, however you guys wish to pronounce it.
That was nice, wasn't it?
I did like it. a lot. But I can understand. I can understand completely how it kind of lends to what you're talking about. This being like not trope thievery, but like nothing.
I would say
not as original.
Way to put it.
Not as original as what people are making it out to be.
Well, like
because,
even the Batman voice, it's like okay.
Well, I mean, yeah, but like,
no.
I mean, come on though. I mean, Pattinson does a really good job of it, I think. And like, what are you going to do? Have Batman come in who's going to sound like Pikachu or something? I mean, you can't do that.
Why not?
Oh boy.
So
it's not going to make any money. That's why.
No, but here's the thing about it, right?
Yeah.
The Batman voice that Christian Bale did was relevant for that franchise for a specific reason. The digital compressor or the digital
that was Ben Affleck. With Ben
Affleck was nice for him.
That was great. I thought that was really cool.
Right? He's so techie in it, and it made sense that he'd use a voice modulator. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
But for this one, I was just like, why not, do like five pieces of Hubba Bubba and talk through that rather than trying to mimic Christian Bale.
It
didn't feel original.
It didn't feel original. I think that's your biggest. I think your biggest thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like an original IP anymore. Maybe in your opinion, it's just been done too much. I was able to find some new things in this, but the more that I think about it, with your points, maybe they were just recycled really well.
And maybe that's something.
And maybe not so well.
Terms too, and maybe not. But for me, it was just a tough one to get through. It was definitely hard work. It was not easy.
I think like when we get back to the idea of the story being a bit of a shakeup. I mean, at the very least, it didn't make us fill in any of the missing plot points. I mean, but also it didn't make it very hard for us to see. It was pretty predictable.
But what is the story on this one?
So, well, I mean, we do have. I'll tell you. I'll tell you what the story is.
What is it?
We have a vengeful Paul Dano playing the Riddler, who realizes that the only way in which his own particular point of justice can be brought forth in the world.
Okay, pause.
Yeah.
Whose movie is this called? The Riddler?
No.
What is this called?
It's called The Batman.
Hey, can you tell me the story again? Can you start over? What is the story?
It's called The Batman, and it's.
Do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. I'm
like
getting it.
I know that I just put you on the spot right now, and it's just a tough one.
No, I respect it. I respect it. I think
if your first comment.
So if you're telling me,
Paul Dano plays Batman. Okay.
If you're telling me that this should have been retitled The Riddler, Batman Awaits or something, and that like the only reason as to why Robert Pattinson is in here was to be as a reactive engine with emo makeup that knew how to fight people in relation to a madman's obsession with his own twisted form of justice and murder taken from Saw, that I would actually believe, I would agree with you. That's actually a little a little bit too on the nose.
I feel really bad. I mean, he is. I'm literally having heartburn talking about literally am.
He is now. Jigsaw. I mean, when you think about it, Paul Dano's Riddler is written as Jigsaw. It really is. You know what I'm
saying? Can I please not have every single other reference to any other movies come back into this movie?
Right. Okay. I'm beginning to pick up a little bit where you're putting down. I did.
And Catwoman starring as Peppermint. I'm sorry. There's so many other things. Don't
dude. You dare speak ill
I just did it.
Of Lady Zoe.
I totally just did.
She is remarkable. Okay. No, I understand where you're coming from.
I'm actually a big fan of Zoe Kravitz from the Big Little Lies franchise.
Yeah.
And not necessarily anything else, because she feels very similar to me as the same kind of person in everything that she does.
Selena Kyle is the same character in every movie. It just depends upon like the talent of the actress. So I can make it. They could put their own flair on it. I think Anne Hathaway did a very good job.
I thought Anne Hathaway. Again, another horrible choice in my opinion.
Yeah,
but she won me over.
Yeah, I hear
loved her. I loved her once I saw it. I
think Kravitz did a very good job in the only way that you could do a good job with Catwoman. You know, she's this very capable, very lithe, very sexy to general audiences, very furious, but also very protective.
You know what I didn't like about that though is
it's the same trope. It's the same trope in every movie.
Well, not really.
Okay.
For me, what was her job in this one other than Catwoman?
She was a waitress at the bar that the mob was at.
What was she?
She was a prostitute?
I think that's closer.
Okay. She was she was a cat burglar. I mean, she was stealing stuff and everything too, but she was also
no, that's right. But for me, going down the dark path with everybody in this didn't make much sense for me.
Well, why not? You have to have a reason as to why they feel the way that they're feeling. I mean,
everybody congregates at the same place in the same town.
Okay.
There's no spread amongst the entire city,
right? The
entire state of whatever this Gotham is.
Right.
Everybody congregates in this one place for this one story. It was too easy.
Okay. I can understand where you're coming from.
I didn't like the convenience.
I think that, and it was a very convenient cast, right? I mean, we had 5, maybe 6 people who were pushing the whole movie, and then there was very little interaction between, what you had Peter Sarsgaard up here playing the district attorney
for 2 minutes.
So I can understand how that can be a point of pain a lot. I mean, Jamie Lawson, who was playing Bella Real, who was the up and coming mayor, who was trying to change things. She did an incredible job. Wasted Andy Serkis. Alfred is an iconic character in this franchise, and he only got maybe 15 minutes of screen time tops. So I can understand where you're coming from. I mean, this movie had a mission. And we can
especially if it's a younger Batman needing his
mentor
board and his mentor around. It was way too small.
I don't like the idea of to that point. We have the same thing where we have Bruce Wayne, the son, who is angry and doesn't know how to figure things out, and we have the loving father and Alfred with Andy Serkis. And it's the same thing we've seen before. No, I don't want to go to my room. You can't tell me what to do. I'm the one who's going to change things. And then, okay, well, I won't push you too far because I love you too much to tell you the truth. And how cool would it be if Andy Serkis was back with what we had back in the Zack Snyder films with
Jeremy Irons.
Who was
terrific,
great. Who was a real sidekick, but like not a sidekick, like, you know, the man at arms for Batman's front line, that kind of thing. I found that pretty refreshing. I'm not a big fan of the original Snyder. I'm a bigger fan, honestly. I'll say it. I'm a bigger fan of the Snyder cut, even though it was clocking in at 4 hours. But
I actually like the Snyder cut quite a bit.
But why not have that dynamic again? Why does that have to be? I understand. I think I'm beginning to see. I'm beginning to see where you're coming from. It's these same old tropes that they're trying to pack it all into the movie, and then in that regard, the movie loses its identity. Originally, it tries to become every movie instead of its own movie.
What they could have done very easily on this one, and I think that they maybe tried to, was make Gordon that sounding board and that mentor, right?
God, man, yeah. I think Jeffrey
Wright is so stinking good. He's so stinking good. But my another issue that I had with this was the contrast in performances, because you're giving me the confused face, which it didn't feel like everybody was acting in the same movie.
I think that's actually pretty. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah. So I mean, if you look at Jeffrey Wright and you look at Andy Serkis, they belong in that same movie.
Yes.
Right. And I think even though I thought the chemistry was awful, literally, I do not think that there was any.
Okay.
Between
Pattinson and Wright.
No, between Pattinson and Kravitz.
I picked up on that a little too, actually.
Yeah, no, I don't think that they had any chemistry. At least that's
right.
Pull that like magnetic.
Right. And
like draw. But they did still feel similar.
They were more like working together more than like, you know, the star-crossed lovers.
Yeah, but they made a love story out of it. And they shouldn't have done that if that was the case. They should have left those scenes away. They should have not gone there. That felt very much like Fight Club for me. Like, do you feel me on that one?
Yeah, I do.
It was
Absolutely.
just like, oh my gosh, so many different tropes from other movies. Maybe that was the point of this movie.
Maybe it was.
Let's see if we can make all of these into the same, and it doesn't work for me.
I think like when like, you know, we're old enough to remember like the really, it was campy, but like when you see Michelle Pfeiffer and Michael Keaton acting opposite each other, I like the chemistry in that regard. It's even more so in the first movie. The whole
tone of that movie lent to that performance fitting into it as well.
Yeah.
Especially Jack doing his crazy, which was so brilliant.
It was really
back
good.
then.
It was really good.
But everybody,
way to get a load of me.
Like the campiness added to their performance and their freedom to be nutty.
So I think we have a way in which we can see the evolution of this entire IP. Where we have the Bolton films, we know that it's not taking itself too seriously, right? It gives us a nice flash in the pan. It gives us some good fun, but it's a movie about a guy wearing underwear on the outside of his pants and a cape who you know, hangs upside down. That's ridiculous. And those films were able to imbue that a little bit. We're able to have fun with it. Nolan comes around and he says, guess what? This is closer to, not Hamlet, but, you know, we can take this a little bit seriously, and I'm going to show you guys how. And it makes so much money. And it's such a revolutionary piece of film. And it has like a 3-film series. Heath Ledger gets an Oscar post-mortem for his performance. And we're able to carry that on. And now, because of these films, and because of added pressure from MCU, now we can take it seriously. This is a serious piece of work. Why didn't The Dark Knight get an Oscar, so on and so forth?
But we also already did that with the Snyder films.
Well, they happened in tandem, I think. They were so close to one another. They were less than a decade apart. So I think that was kind of a situation where that was kind of like within the same realm. And at least when it came to the studio heads of being able to see how this IP could make some real profit, they happen so close to each other that they're still trying to do the same idea with the same, like, you know, fever dream that is Zack Snyder's process being able to put into it, which I think is more akin to Bolton's process. He doesn't take his stuff as seriously. He's kind of like, you know, from the Michael Bay kind of school of thought where, like, you know what? It can be fun and big and loud and make a lot of money, and I can be happy with that. And you know what? I can too. There's some things from the Snyder stuff that I dislike. Out of all of the reiterations of this IP, I like the Justice League the least. But I think that what Reeves is trying to do is still trying to get that genie in the bottle, and unfortunately it just comes off as being maybe more of a carbon copy instead of something more original, which might be a problem for people who are looking for the next chapter in this
copy,
IP.
I would call it a cut and paste.
A cut and paste, gotcha. Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, then that's a pretty good attitude to have. I think I don't agree with it completely, but I definitely understand your point. And I'll tell you one thing: I'm definitely more towards your opinion than I was before we started talking tonight. I do really appreciate that.
And you're welcome for that.
Thank you, Robert.
Okay, so I do want to say things that I did like about it.
Yeah, go for it.
Right. So I actually really did enjoy all the costumes. I thought that the costume designer was terrific. Most of the cinematography that wasn't super dark, but had a nice depth to it. And
I think the funeral scene was beautiful.
There were a lot of really, really nice cinematography moments. I dug the music that they chose. It was very mopey for what the movie was.
I know I was making a joke about Nirvana being in here, but where it was placed, I mean, my heart did start beating. I'll be honest.
No, I mean, there's such a wonderful nostalgia for any music that comes through that fits a scene. Yeah, that's kind of it ends up being something really nice. But that's about it. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that I was a fan of the editing. I'm not sure that I was.
The pacing was a bit off. They lost me a little bit, and especially when you're dealing with like a 3-hour feature. You have to make sure that the subchapters in each act have proper connectivity, and that can be so hard to do. When you're doing when you're doing like a 90-minute feature, it's like, okay, Act 1, pop, pop, pop. Act 2, pop. Act 3, we have the climax between the second and third act, and then we have, fall down from momentum going into the final. And then with this, it's like this movie did run into the problem that a lot of long features have. It's like, how many endings did this movie have? Okay. So that can be a bit of a problem too, and I understand where you're coming from for sure.
It had too many villain stories going on at the
same time. Okay.
I don't like that.
And unfortunately, they were all villain stories that we've seen before. We know how Saw ends, so we know how this is going to end. Yeah. Right. Well, how was the? Let's go into. Let's kind of wrap this up just a bit then, because we've kind of gotten to the point where
I totally stole your thunder on this one. You were so excited to talk about this, and I'm like, I'm gonna steamroll you so bad.
I am so happy that you're able to change my mind on some things, though, because that's I am gonna watch this movie again, and then I'm gonna ask myself, you know what? Why did I enjoy this one so much?
Okay, so please do, and tell me if it wipes out all of my bitching and actually does something really nice for validating how you felt.
Absolutely. Let's really quickly then. Let's jump into cast. We talked on it a little bit. So no chemistry between Pattinson and Kravitz,
and that's a huge
bad, absolutely
bad line item for me.
But what were some of the good things about the casting here that you? Put through? And also, the big question if anybody was replaced, would it have been the same movie? Would have been a different movie? That kind of situation as well.
I hate to say this, but it would have made a big difference if they had a different cast.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Why so?
For me,
just like a chemistry kind of situation, or
not necessarily because Robert Pattinson. I think that in the suit. Mm-hmm. I feel a Batman vibe from him, so I appreciate that. Yeah, right. That's did not get Bruce Wayne.
I think that is so refreshing. I felt the same way, honestly.
Okay, because that's a huge part of the franchise for me. Is Batman is one side and Bruce Wayne is the other. I didn't feel Bruce Wayne at all.
Do you think it's because because this was earlier in his career, right, as vigilante or whatever? Do you think
I don't think that matters in the least.
What? Okay.
Throw that out the window.
Okay.
He still has 30 years of experience being Bruce Wayne.
So he should still be the playboy then when he's not wearing the suit.
He absolutely should still be that billionaire playboy side of it too. At least in part. Did we see any of that in this franchise? No. Maybe we will, because they already announced the sequel.
I'm happy about it.
And maybe they can listen to us and maybe add some elements.
Choose a lane.
Or just me.
Choose a lane.
But I think Jeffrey Wright was an amazing idea for it.
I think Paul Dano was a great choice.
I'm excited to see where that goes. Yeah. I think Paul Dano could have been a great choice. I know that you have your opinion on him, and I have mine. I thought that both he and Colin overshot what this movie was. They went way too far as far as the idea of that, and I feel like Pattinson and Kravitz went way too under.
When I tend to agree a bit with that, because I understand the chemistry thing with Pattinson and Kravitz. Even you're definitely the person that I lean on in regards to, like, you know, casting that kind of thing for obvious reasons.
Yeah, but if you felt it too,
yeah, for sure. But ever since I've seen Dano get his milkshake sucked up, I have been like the biggest fan. And like whenever he does what he does so well, he can play the handsome debutante so easily, but I love it when he can just play the sullen kind of maniac who feels justified in the chaos that he's making. And I got that from him.
So that was a There Will Be Blood reference, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Totally different story if we're talking about that movie. Can we please compare the two?
I don't think there's any difference. He was a psycho. He was a psycho. He was a psycho in one movie. He's a psycho in this movie. I don't.
No.
Okay.
No, do not throw that down, because it's so not right.
I understand it's a completely different film. I mean, like the characterization, like the way in which you can look into his eyes when he's like portraying these characters, and you see how weird they are. I feel like
he's a terrific actor. I just feel like for the tone of what this movie is, they either took a performance that didn't fit the rest of the tone in the edit, or that's all they had to work with, and it just didn't match for me. And,
I got you.
And part of acting for me is understanding what movie you're in and what story that you're telling. And if you have two main players that are not on the same page, it's going to feel disjointed, or it doesn't line up.
Right.
And it ends up being like a sidewalk that's
uneven. I do love, like what you mentioned before, where it's like, maybe they didn't know what movie they were in, or maybe they thought the movie was different or was provided to them as being something different. I can respect that 100%.
Yeah. And, you know, I don't want to take away any of the hard work, dedication, and whatever these performers put into it, but my God, I did not like it.
I understand. Well, as consumers of this art, we have a right to put our opinion out there. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's something that I say a lot. I mean, you know more nowadays than I do the rigors and the challenges that you have when you have a multi-million-dollar budget and entire IP's future upon the artistic endeavors that you're making as a writer and also as a cast member, that kind of thing. But I think that we're safe in saying that, you know, though you and I may disagree on some points, maybe there was some dust that didn't get knocked off the shelves on this one. I think that the sound effects were, you know, they were Batman-esque. You know,
were they new?
They were
original.
They did not use anything.
Sorry, I had to do one more dig. I had to go one more foot. Sorry, go ahead.
No, they were sounds that I heard before, and I don't know if anybody like gets bothered when I say that, but I assure you guys, I do watch movies, and I do take time to like try and find out what sound effects I can see. And I've done that. See, Andrus is doing this thing now. You guys, it's not a visual podcast, obviously, but Andrus is doing this.
Isn't that funny?
Andrus is doing this thing where like he's playing with remote control as if I'm comparing two films at the same time to try and like find out what sound effect. I've done that. Yeah. I've done that. Is that the gunshot that they use in Star Raiders of the? Oh my God! See, I've done that. And like when it comes to like this film. No, there wasn't anything like really original. The OST, like, you know, the soundtrack, the music cues, I thought were pretty brilliant in ways. The impacts were good and all that kind of stuff. What I will say is that even though they were sounds that I heard before when it came to the Foley and that kind of thing, like literally from other movies, I've heard these sounds before. The way in which they were put into play, I thought were kind of refreshing, especially when it came to like, you know, Batman's suit. There are some, you know, cool things that come about where I wasn't expecting, you know, his harpoon or something to sound like that. I wasn't expecting like, you know, the suit to make the sounds that it did when it did. And I thought that was pretty refreshing. Besides that, it was, well, I mean, like, maybe more like what you're saying, Andrus. Maybe it was just more like of a cut and copy kind of situation when it came to the soundscape. So there you go. I was still entertained though, and it was a very competent point of mastering for sure.
Okay, good. Do you think it's going to be an Oscar contender like
absolutely not
other ones in the past?
No, absolutely not.
See, and that's another one where I'm just like, but why not? Why not? Yeah. Why not be the best?
Well, because you don't have Hans Zimmer on the working on this one for one, and secondly, because there's no such thing as an original idea in film. It's just whether or not it's just the time at which people have heard it from the last time that people have heard it or seen it. That's it.
I think maybe the other thing is, for me, that the other disappointing factor is the proximity to which we had the last Batman movie to this Batman movie.
Yeah.
It just doesn't feel special. Did it
Yeah.
for you?
Well, I know it didn't. I found it interesting, but not special. And I think that's because maybe we've just seen too many. I don't think that's the fault necessarily on the studio, the people who are doing it. Also, all praise to Michael Giacchino, who was the who's doing
Michael's
the music.
great.
Yeah.
Michael's so good
And,
all the time. I'm a huge fan of his.
Yeah, and Greg Fraser, who was director of photography, doing a lot of great work. But I think that honestly, I think we're just tired. I think we've tasted this ice cream before, and we're ready for the next step. But even though it was a valiant try, honestly, there's only so much you can do with this franchise.
But is that true?
I think so. I think
Do you with all of the content out there?
I do. I think that we've seen everything we can from Batman, and like now, it's a question of seeing the same thing, but provided to us in a package that makes it seem like it's original.
So I want to disagree because I've always been a fan of Batman as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not one, like, I never really got into the comic book side of life, but certainly out of all of the content that's out there, why can't we do a new
Anything's possible
of this? They've done it 3 times over so far. Anything 4 or 5, whatever it is.
Anything's possible. I just don't think that when you're talking about the scale that we're talking about and the the money that is trading hands, that people are going to be willing to take a leap of faith with the Batman franchise as they were with the Joker. I just don't see it happening. But when we saw Todd Phillips again take the helm and Phoenix going about and putting out the Joker, it was something different and it was something exciting and it got Oscar nods. So, what do I know? I just don't think that when you're talking about the guy that people are willing to take that risk.
I'm going to give you a little bit of a secret. Did you hear it? Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you okay. Yeah. What?
Okay, good.
What?
I'll just speak up a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
If you're going to go noir, why don't you set it in a noir timescape? Sorry, the end.
Not bad. I think that's
right.
I think that's
for
pretty...
me, that would have been super exciting to see as a noir Batman.
Is he wearing the cowl under a fedora and has a trench coat on? I mean, then we're just talking Dick Tracy with a mask. You know what I mean? Oh my God!
Isn't that what we just saw?
Oh my God!
Sorry.
No, you're right. You make a good point.
But there's still elements of noir that would fit for this.
Sure.
If we make him a PI, it still fits.
Yeah. I understand where you're coming from.
I think, but that's me. Sorry.
No, you don't have to apologize. I appreciate your opinion. And honestly, you've kind of opened my eyes to a couple of things that when I do watch this movie again, I'll be looking out for. And you know what? Maybe it'll get to the point where I'll be saying to myself, oh my gosh, Robert was right. Oh. And then maybe I'll end up falling asleep during the second act.
Will you please tell me when that happens?
I will.
You've got to send me a text immediately following it. It's just like, Robert, you're full of crap. Or
actually, I understand that what you said about the casting and chemistry was right on, but in my particular opinion, I believe that, it is something to say specifically to Zoe Kravitz is only the second woman of color to play this role. Jeffrey Wright is the first man of color to be able to play Gordon. I mean, they definitely stepped out and they found a talent that wasn't based upon, the tropes that we were used to with this franchise, and it says a lot. But ultimately, you're still going to have problems with the chemistry and the writing regardless of who's in there. But still, I wanted to, make sure that we made mention of that as well. It's just a situation, too, though, where we have to go about and make sure that the story is a good story, and there are ways in which we can have representation and still have a good story. We can make it happen. It's been done before in the past, and it'll continue to be done in the future.
Well, and that's an interesting comment to make too, because I don't know that person of color, the actor is the actor. That did not matter to me in this one.
Yeah,
it was. I don't know if literally an actor can play any role as long as the role is open to an actor playing that, I think.
Yeah.
So,
and especially when we're dealing with a completely fake universe that isn't like, a historical docudrama or something like that.
Right. I mean, it's like the same idea of James Bond, where M was a woman.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that was so amazing and wonderful, but now it's just like I kind of liked M as a woman rather than Ray Fiennes as
the madam or whatever.
The patriarchy of it.
Yeah.
But so I mean, I understand the relevance of casting being what it was, and being colorblind in the casting is super critical anymore. But chemistry matters for me, especially when we're telling a story, especially when there's an idea of a love element in the story.
And when you don't have that, and you pile that on top of like disjointed pacing and storytelling, can be a little bit weird.
It's gotta be there.
I understand. Well, listen, I really do appreciate your opinion, Andrus, and I do love it when we disagree, because we always end up agreeing a little bit towards the end anyway. And I'm also interested in hearing what everybody else has to say, so if you feel like giving us some comments, feel free. We do appreciate that you listen to us, if you are to be listening to us, and not, yelling at us through the interwebs. But by all means, if you do want us to really hear what you're saying, go ahead and email us, pullfocuspod@gmail.com. Like and subscribe on YouTube, follow us on SoundCloud, and we'll just keep doing what we're doing. As always, we really do appreciate the fact that you gave us some time out of your day to hear what we have to say. The Batman, maybe you should skip it if you're a diehard fan. Then again, you may want to watch it because it could be fun enough to watch the carnage. Who knows? I thought it was pretty good. Andrus has some definite opinions, and you know what? I very seldom find him being wrong in those opinions, to be completely honest. But that being said, take a look, see what you think, let us know if we were right. And Andrus, as always, regardless, man, I love talking to you. I really do appreciate it, and I can't wait for us to talk again. And maybe we'll agree more, maybe we'll disagree more, but regardless, I'm going to enjoy the conversation. So thank you, brother. I do appreciate it. Everybody else, take care. Thank you very much once more, and be good to each other. We'll talk to you again soon. Bye.